I have been looking forward to this handheld for a very long time. I backed it around about 8 months ago on Kickstarter, so I was there before it even launched. And I had such high hopes, and it arrived, and well, let's just say it's definitely not worth picking up. So this is called the CreoCode Lyra. It's a Raspberry Pi handheld created by a company in London, and specs wise, like, it is a great handheld. It's run by a Pi CM3 Lite. It's got a 1 GB of RAM. It's got a 5-inch display. Like, it's a good looking handheld. But I got it 4 days ago. I started making an unboxing video. I went through 6 hours of footage because I was messing around with installation, checking out the battery. Those of you that like a DIY handheld, you can put this together yourself, or you can buy it ready to go straight out of the box. And I did that, and there was fingerprints on it. Stuff wasn't in correctly, and it was just a little bit of a downer on the whole unboxing experience. So that video I scrapped and thought I'd make this video on recommending not to pick it up. So here it is. The unboxing and the packaging is phenomenal. Like, when I started opening it, I was like, yes, finally a company has got a handheld packaging correct. Like, this looks good. And the company behind it, CreoCode, they are professional. They know what they're doing. Their support is perfect as well. I was messaging them through Instagram and on email, and they were getting back to me within an hour. So fair play to them. Your support team is impressive. Your handheld on the other side could have done with a little bit more TLC. So look at this. Like, that's obviously the motherboard there, and if you were to buy it in pieces, you'd probably be looking at the motherboard here. But I bought it ready to go. And ready to go, they advertised it's ready to play straight out of the box. No. I had to install the software. I had to go on their website and go through instructions. They didn't even have Mac instructions as well, so I had to go and do it myself and find out the software that I needed. Like, if you're a Mac user, it would have annoyed you. So there's the handheld itself, the CreoCode Lyra. And for some reason, it was obviously just me, a mistake. I thought it was metal. Like, I thought in their video, this thing looked like flushed aluminium or something. Like, it looked metal, but this is straight up plastic on a $250 handheld. Like, if you look at the Retro Game 350, this is $150, and this is made out of an aluminium shell, and that can do everything this can, pretty much. So here it is. The games that it can apparently play is all of your old retro games, which is a bit of a lie. It can't play GameCube. It can just about play N64, but there's problems with that because we'll get there. Let's talk about the quality of the handheld a moment. So in the packaging, a lot of you will want to see, obviously, if you were to get it in pieces to build it yourself, this would all be filled up with stuff. So you get your little tool to get into the back of it, you get replacement buttons, and you get a micro USB. Now, the problems I had with this, and one major one, is that when they built it, there was fingerprints all over it, and the battery wasn't plugged in properly. So I immediately had to go into the shell to plug in the battery. After plugging in the battery, it wouldn't start. I'd get this weird, like, flickering of the screen, and it just wouldn't turn on. If it did, it would take me about 5 minutes, or like 3 to 5 minutes to turn on. Like, it was, something wasn't right. So I fully charged it, and I managed to get it going. It came alive, and then about half hour later it started flickering again. And what I found out is that they actually put in a dud battery in this thing, which only lasts 30 minutes. So the only way I could play this is with full battery. So I've managed to obviously charge this fully so we can turn it on, and I'll turn it on for you. And as you can see, like, with a $250 handheld, this doesn't even have an analog stick, plus it doesn't have 4 shoulder buttons. So if you're playing some of your PlayStation 1 ROMs and stuff, you may struggle to play them correctly because of the lack of shoulder buttons. And N64, it does emulate N64, but again, lack of buttons. You know, like, and there's no analog stick, there's no 6 face buttons, so making it playable is really, really hard. Like, I don't think they considered that very well when creating this handheld. On the back, like, I do like the design. The design's kind of sleek, but again, small things like there's no volume wheel on it. I have no idea why they didn't want to add a volume wheel. Like, that's very, very simple to do. There's also, what was the other feature? There's all, like, it's micro USB. It's not even USB-C. This came out in 2020. It's a $250 handheld. Please add micro USB-C. I know it's not the biggest of problems, but for me, $250 up there, not with Nintendo, but you want it to be competing with Nintendo. So this is what you get straight out of the box. Obviously, you had to install the RetroPie software on here, which you do. The way you install it as well is really awkward. So they only give you one micro SD card slot. So you install the software onto this micro SD card slot, which no other SD card slot. You can't install ROMs through this SD card slot. You have to do it via a USB stick, which is very, very old school. Like, I wouldn't know why you do that. You have to install the right files and then obviously put your ROMs on in the correct folders, and then you plug it into your Lyra here, which is like, I prefer it just to have another SD card slot to plug it in, because the most people, or most of their customers that are going to buy this, is going to be people that already have a handheld or an emulator that they use, but they just want to plug in their SD card. So that was very annoying that I had to go on my Mac, pull over my ROMs, put it on another hard drive, format that hard drive. It was just a pain in the butt. But like, gameplay wise, the N64 doesn't work because you have to configure all of your buttons manually, and it's just a bit of a pain and do all of the work. And when you're buying a ready to go handheld, you would have thought they would have installed it all for you on the micro SD, done all the settings and shipped it out, but it's just like, we've put it together and here you go. Like, even the build quality on some of this is really poor. Like, I don't know if you can see this, the top of it is just a bit annoying really, but I do like the look of it, like the curvature here on the D-pad and the ABXY button's quite nice. But you know, I think they think they're making a $100 handheld here. Like, I've paid $250 for this thing. That's expensive. So the screen as well, like the viewing angles on the screen, I don't know if you can see that, it's quite poor. It's not the best. Like, even if I move it ever so slightly, you get that really sharp glare of the screen, which isn't very nice. But like, let's just jump into a couple games here, because I know some of you want to see that. It looks good, but any kind of other angle is a bit stuff, and N64 stuff. But N64 is where you do get a few frame rate drops, but SNES, NES, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Mega Drive even works well. Like, it does. So when I'm playing, my thumb is under it. But as you can see, it's emulator settings and stuff. I think what was it on Game Boy Advance? Was it like, yeah, so your select button and your X button, and you can go and save state, load state, just like your classic other emulators. How do I get out of this? How the hell do I get back out of this? There you go. But it's the small things which like frustrate me about this, and I think it's because of the really high price on this thing. You'd expect it to be almost near perfect, especially when China's coming out with handhelds that can emulate the same for like $60, $70, you know, and they've got 4 shoulder buttons and 2 analog sticks, you know. So admittedly, this uses a Raspberry Pi CM3 Lite, which is going to be a lot more powerful than some of the stuff China comes out with. But it's the build quality that we were all, or I was wanting from this handheld, to be like nothing that's came out of China. But unfortunately, it's lesser than that. It's very poor quality, in fact. And like, some things like the analogs that be up here, admittedly, but I have to come all the way back here to press them. And I'm like, Jesus, like why don't they just have a large shoulder button, you know? Like, who have they gave this to and then been like, that's nice? Like, this is very, very forced on my fingers. Like, it's gonna cause a lot of pain if I'm playing for an hour or so. And it's just, and again, the speaker over the D-pad, like for example, you can't see it, but when I'm playing on the D-pad, my thumb is covering the speaker grill. I'm like, you could be like, no, the speaker needs to be underneath. You know, the shoulder buttons could be a little bit bigger. Or they could have even added an analog stick easily. They could have put this over here and you've got an analog stick. But no, I don't know. For $250, I thought I would, you know, see a lot more from these guys, seeing as they've done some configure all of the buttons, but then again, some of the buttons are missing. So if you want to see more on the Creo Code Lite, well, I'm sending it back tomorrow, so I don't think I can. But like, it's so close to being good, but they've just cut a lot of corners, and the build quality is just, it's just not there for a $250 handheld, you know? Like, even that's easily solvable. I don't know, I think they took so long. Like, when they first announced it in like early 2019, you were like, damn, yeah, that could potentially rival a lot of stuff out there. But they've taken like 12 months to launch it, and now it's just outdated straight out of the box. And it's a real shame, because I wanted it to be really, really good. So there you have it. There's a quick look at the Creocode Lyra. I don't advise buying it. The build quality is a little poor. It came with a lot of issues. So in about 10-20 minutes, changed the battery and stuff, but after all of the issues I had, even installing like the ROMs for, so the DIY unit was like £170, or ready to go out of the box to play was £200. So I gave them £30 to build out. They didn't install the software on the SD card, and there was fingerprints all over it straight out of the box. And I was like, what have I paid £30 for? I even had to go in and change the battery and plug it in after, so I might as well have just done it myself and saved 30 quid. Now, I know this may sound like a little bit of a rant, but I think this video will help a few of you not to pick it up, because I know a few of you have asked questions. I know there's a company behind it and a team behind it. I appreciate that, but I think you need some people like me to give you honest opinions, because then your next product will be a lot better. So hopefully, if they do bring out another one, I will give it another try. But I was hoping for a metal body, you know, just a lot better build quality on this thing. They could have added a few more shoulder buttons, etc. But you know, don't pick it up. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a dud in my opinion. I will be sending it back, but hopefully Creocode do come out with something really cool next year, or even the end of this year. So there you have it, guys, a look at the Creocode Lyra. I don't recommend picking it up. As per usual, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more handheld content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.